Greetings, Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. This is episode 2639, and this is Friday. Well, in looking through for the news for the day, I came across actually several articles, and so I've combined them and I didn't copy all of them. I took several of them and combined them into one overall article. So let's get started. With President Trump's threat to attack Iran looming over the discussions, American and Iranian negotiators sat down again in Switzerland Thursday separately for another round of talks brokered by Oman, focusing on the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. Iran says it does not have and will not build a nuclear weapon, and Mr. Trump has said he will not allow Tehran to acquire one, a position he shares with his recent predecessors, Barack Obama and Joe Biden. The Obama administration spent months negotiating an international deal to constrain and monitor Iran's nuclear enrichment program. But during his first term, Mr. Trump attacked the pact as horrible and pulled the U.S. out. Since returning to the White House, Mr. Trump has threatened to strike Iran if it doesn't make a new deal to curb its nuclear activities. Despite warnings from many nations in the Middle East and elsewhere, and including Iran, that any U.S. strike could spark a major international conflict, Mr. Trump has ordered the biggest American military buildup in the Middle East in decades, pressuring Tehran to make the deal he wants. The U.S. State Department authorized non-emergency personnel and their family members to leave Israel on Friday, citing unspecified safety risks, joining many other nations that have urged citizens to leave the region amid the threat of a new war. During his 2026 State of the Union address, Mr. Trump repeated his claim that the U.S. obliterated Iran's nuclear weapons program with strikes in June, a claim that the UN's nuclear watchdog agency, the IAEA, has recently cast doubt on, and said despite his warnings, they're starting it all over. We wiped it out and they want to start it all over again and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. The president has said repeatedly he prefers a diplomatic solution to the standoff, but that he is prepared to use the U.S. military if he deems it necessary. Mr. Trump claimed in his address on Tuesday that Iran had never ruled out building a nuclear weapon, but the country's foreign minister, Abbas Araki, vowed not long before the U.S. leader spoke that Iran would, under no circumstances, ever develop a nuclear weapon. We have a historic opportunity to strike an unprecedented agreement that addresses mutual concerns and achieves mutual interests, Araki said in a social media post, adding that a deal was within reach, but only if diplomacy is given priority. Araki insisted, however, on Iran's right to harness dividends of peaceful nuclear technology, hinting at one of the major sticking points the negotiators in Geneva will need to work on. While he didn't reiterate the demand pushed hard by Israel in his State of the Union address, Mr. Trump has previously said any new nuclear agreement with Iran should include a full abandonment of all domestic uranium enrichment. That is something Tehran has said it cannot accept. Enrichment is our right, Iraqi reiterated Sunday on CBS, Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan, noting that Iran is a member of the NPT, or Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and we have every right to enjoy a peaceful nuclear energy, including enrichment. Speaking after the latest round of talks on Thursday, a veteran Iranian diplomat acknowledged ongoing differences, but said there was now an understanding on some issues, and he said there had been perhaps more seriousness on both sides than before, with the aim of reaching a negotiated solution. Iraqi said teams from both Iran and the U.S. would soon start working in conjunction with the United Nations nuclear watchdog agency, the IAEA, to develop a framework for addressing the some technical issues, and that following consultations by both negotiating teams in the respective capitals, we will have the fourth round of negotiations next week. Despite this public expression of optimism from Iran's side, Sanam Vakil, director of the Middle East and North Africa program at the Chatham House think tank in London, believes the two sides are still too far apart. She told CBS News on Wednesday that in her view, a military clash is inevitable and soon. I think it's imminent. I mean, it's a matter of days. War looks inevitable to me because President Trump has been not just assembling a huge arsenal to strike Iran, but also because President Trump has been clearly signaling that he is seeking the submission of the Islamic Republic to terms and conditions that currently the leaders in Iran don't appear willing to make. The main thing that Iran can give is a commitment to not enrich uranium above a certain grade inside Iran for a number of years. It's worthwhile mentioning that Iran is already not enriching uranium and hasn't been since the June war last summer when the United States pummeled Iran's nuclear facilities and buried its enrichment program. So that has happened already, de facto happening, and Iran can give that concession to President Trump. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also said, speaking to reporters on Wednesday, that Iran is not currently enriching uranium, but he added, they're trying to get to the point where they ultimately can. What Iran simultaneously seeks is an affirmation of its nuclear rights as a signatory of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and Iran doesn't want to be singled out. Iran wants to be treated like all the other signatories. And so what it is looking for is an ability to enrich uranium at very low levels for medical purposes. And that would be how they would compromise on this principle. I believe the maximum of concessions that the Ayatollahs can offer will not meet White House minimum requirements. Both sides have their red lines, and it's hard to see how a deal can be arrived at without one side making major concessions. This was said by CBS News contributor Masih Alanajad, an Iranian American journalist and activist. She said there were rumors that the Trump administration might consider a deal that allows Iran to maintain a total token enrichment program as a research facility, for instance. But she notes that given Mr. Trump's vehement criticism of the previous agreement negotiated by the Obama administration, he now needs a much better agreement or a better deal. The nuances of Iran's nuclear program were clearly a key aspect of the talks on Thursday, as the head of the UN's IAEA again joined the delegations in Geneva. Iran's ballistic missiles are also a big concern. Alanajad, referring to the huge number of conventional weapons Iranian leaders have threatened to aim at Israel and U.S. military installations across the Mideast if Mr. Trump does order strikes. A deal that leaves Islamic Republic's nuclear enrichment facilities intact and allows them to keep their missiles would be viewed as a total failure. Retired Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster, a CBS News contributor, who served as National Security Advisor in the first Trump administration, shared the pessimism. The ideology of the theocratic dictatorship and its permanent hostility to the United States and Israel will result in intransigence and an inability to make concessions on enrichment, the missile program, and support for terrorist organizations, he said. Trump is firmly on the record criticizing the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Remember, worst deal ever. He will not be willing, and its political base would not support concessions that essentially replicate the flaws of that previous agreement. So I have an opinion on this, and if there's some sound coming through, it's some next door. I have no control over that. Uh, for the most part, I will leave the debate as it has been reported. However, I will say this: I don't trust the UN, and never really have, but even less in recent days, the recent years, really, as it's leaned more and more to the left, more and more towards the Arab position, more and more anti-Semitic. And so I don't have much confidence in them at all. So, and as far as Iran never having a nuclear enrichment program and stuff like that, they're lying. It's obvious. We know that. So the fact that they have lied in the past doesn't give you much confidence in what they're saying now. However, I do think that Iran's leadership now has an understanding of certain facts. Listen to this. They now know that if America attacks, they can't stop it. They didn't. They couldn't stop They didn't even know it was happening until it was happening. That was proved when the U.S. bombed their facilities. Neither can they retaliate because America, if it attacks, would destroy their capability to respond. So they're bragging and say, "Well, if you hit us, we're going to hit back." With what? You're not going to have anything left to hit back with. Even if they survive an initial bombing and everything, the United States air power is such that they would simply dominate it, and it's just not unlikely. They might get something off, but it would be like throwing rocks at a guy who's got a uh, bazooka in his eye. So it just doesn't compare. They also know that their regime is in trouble. And this has got to be something that's got to be part of the problem here, I think. The Iranian people have been very restive. They have been demonstrating. Thousands of them have been arrested and disappeared into their prison camps and things of this nature. But that may have suppressed it to some degree, but it is still there. It is still, and it appears to be growing from everything I'm seeing. I don't know. I'm not over there, but from what I'm seeing in the news and everything, it does not look too promising for the Iranian leaders. And so their throne is a little shaky there, folks. And just like Putin's is in Russia. And we don't know what's going to cause that crack to split wide open, whether it's in Russia or Iran or both. And that could cause them. Now, yeah, some people say if that happens, they might send their missiles flying. Well, that's a possibility because these people are unstable. But again, the fact that we now have a major buildup over there, our reaction will be swift and total. So while they might do damage elsewhere, they wouldn't be around to enjoy it. They are relying on an army that may not be as loyal as they suppose. The army is made up of primarily men, and these men have mothers and fathers, they have wives, they have children, and they may have in the past been able to compartmentalize all that, but now they know that if there's a battle, if they launch a battle, their own families are in danger. And so how much can you rely on an army like that? So Iran's leaders have, in my opinion, a very dicey situation. And so that's where I'm going to leave it today. It's really a serious situation, one that can blow up at any time. As far as President Trump is concerned, he is quite capable of walking that tight line. He's shown that. He also knows how to push and then pull back, and push some more and pull back. So he knows how to do that. And so I'm glad he's involved in it and not somebody like Obama or Biden. You never know how that would work. Didn't work out the first time. That President Trump was right about that treaty. It was a terrible thing to begin with. Basically, it gave Iran the ability to build the facilities it did. And Trump went in and took it back out. But now they want to get back to building it again. You can keep taking it out and they rebuild and then we take it out again. And then that's a continuing basis. I think sooner or later there has to be a break. And Iran is, I'm not, it's not isolated, as China has an ally, as Russia has an ally, but Russia has got its own problems. China has problems as well, on a domestic front and their economic front as well. There's some problems there. And so Iran, if they look around, can't have a great deal of confidence in what kind of support they could expect. And so, like I said, they're in a very dicey situation. Well, I hope this has been informative, encouraging, and in some ways inspirational. It is my goal to always do all three, and hopefully at least one of them. The situation, like I said, I've said it more than once, it's dicey. But at the same time, they are at the table. They are sitting down and talking. And as long as they're doing that, there's still hope. I don't trust Iran's leaders any more than I trust Russia's leaders. But I do have confidence in the American leaders. I am disturbed by the fact that the United Nations is involved in this. The IAEA, I think that is an international organization, but their ties to the United Nations, their ties to countries that are increasingly anti-Semitic. I just that disturbs me. But at the moment, it seems to be a plus. We'll just have to wait and see. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next episode. And don't forget, TNR Independent Books is a Christian indie publisher. We put books out there regularly on sale. We have services that we provide to you, such as basic authors training, what we call BAT. We also have ministry publishing, or MP, which is for people who are, both are for Christians. But the first one, BAT, is for those who don't know how to write and want to learn. And then they'll get, once they learn, they'll get published. Or the other one is people who are involved in their church ministry and already know how to write. And so these are people who we would like to connect with. We want you to have confidence in us. And we are excited about what is already going on. And we look forward to the future. And if you are interested, reach out. You have the opportunity, just go to the website and you can begin your Christian or your writing journey, your publishing journey. You have a great day. And I'll see you in the next episode.